ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांतिः। ओम तत्सत्। Okay, so if this light goes off again, I will not turn it on. It will bother my flow. So whatever is there is there. So from last time, we were discussing about the Samadhi, then Kriya Yoga, how Patanjali takes the progress in yoga stage by stage. And even when we cannot do, and when we have a lot of work to do, like we have a lot of, we have to start from scratch. No matter where you are, you can start. So for that, we have Ashtanga Yoga. We saw that. So that is the whole point about what we call as, Mahavratam. In tradition, there is this term used for Yama Niyama. If you read the commentaries of Yoga Sutra on Yama Niyama. Yama Niyama means the don'ts and do's, the prohibitions and the observances. Prohibitions means you restrict yourself not doing certain very important indulgences related to the egoistic way of living. So that is the whole point of this. So the entire point of Yama Niyama is to decondition the habitual way of living where the motivation is only egoistic or individualistic gratification. So this individual gratification, basically the mapping that we have to obtain satisfaction only from gratification of a desire that comes from inside us because of the habit patterns that are deeply ingrained in us, janmas after janmas, which are sustained by ignorance. So to understand this, the grip, how much the habitual patterns have a grip on us. To understand that, there is a concept of klesha. Klesha means that which gives pain by definition. So he talks about 5 levels in which this pain causing affliction of habit pattern that is based on the ego, how it is developed. It's called klesha in Yoga Shastra. Klesha means pain causing affliction. So basically it starts like this. Everything is everything is sustained by avidya or ignorance, and all that theory is there. But when we see from experience, from our experience, we see in psychology Maslow's hierarchy of needs and all that. So everywhere the survival becomes the most important or the strongest compulsion. So if you really look at what is binding us, if we look at the structure of bondage. So when we are talking about spirituality, freedom, it is about realizing the self, which is the spirit, realizing myself as the free spirit. You can call it like that. So when we talk about a spiritual life is nothing but a journey that takes me from the bondage of individuality to the realization of my true nature as the free spirit, which is basically the power of consciousness, unboundedness, and self-existence, where one does not require another thing for its existence. Something that does not require something else for its existence is the ultimate existence itself. So that is the nature of the spirit, and at that level, there is no you, there is no me, there is all this multiplicity is only an appearance. That is the subject of Vedanta. So, what is the nature of the spirit is the subject of Vedanta. But one thing we know for sure is that unboundedness and complete lack of any kind of limitation and complete absence of sorrow, complete absence of struggle and sorrow, and complete absence of the experience of bondage. So this is something that we can all relate with. So, if you go to Vedanta, you have different interpretations of Vedanta. So you have these, Shankara, we have, like me, the Shankara Advaita school, where we say that the original Tatparya, the original intended meaning, the actual meaning, what Vedanta is trying to tell us is Advaita. Advaita is the truth. But the Vaishnavites describe it differently. Shaivites, Shaiva Siddhantis describe differently. So you go into all these worldview kind of, the problem is the knowledge, the theory of the reality, the worldview, the theory of the reality. It goes on, and then all of them are extremely well versed in logic. As a common man, when you see all these panditas and all these scholars, each one has stopped in decades of study, very intense study into the Vedas, into the Agamas, into the Vedanta, the Prasthana Tarya, Upanishads, into all the commentaries and Tarka and whatnot. So every school, when you see an Acharya, the person has put in phenomenal amount of study. If I see a person from the Shankara Advaita Parampara, you see this huge amount of austerities, study, tapasya, everything. You take a person from Ramanuja Parampara or this Vaishnava Parampara, same, phenomenal amount of study, phenomenal amount of tapasya, lifestyle, and austerities and everything, and purity. Madhva Sampradaya, same, extremely deep study of logic, nyaya, and all that, and then you have their austerities, the very disciplined lifestyle, lot of bhakti, everything. So any sampradaya you go, Shaiva Siddhanta is the same thing. If you go to any sampradaya, there is no lack of austerity, or there is no lack of study and all that. So as a common man, when you go, you don't know whom to follow. Right? So this is where what is most important is we need to come from the goal. This is very important. The goal, the purushartha that I want, what I am pursuing. So when we are going into this exploration of the spiritual life, I have to have a relatable goal. I must understand the goal. So what I am trying to arrive at, what I'm trying to achieve, what I'm trying to realize, what I am trying to actualize in all these endeavors of mine. What am I trying to actualize? So as a spiritual aspirant, if I'm talking about absence of any experience of bondage, this is very easy to understand. So I know bondage. I don't know infinite happiness. I don't know. I'm a normal man. I'm a normal person. I'm living in a body. Every day there are struggles, and anything that I acquire, I have to struggle for it. After I acquire it, I have to sustain it. That is another. It's like buying a super bike. No, you have to spend a lot of money to buy that, and after you buy that, you have to maintain it. No matter how nicely you maintain it and how well you ride it, one fine morning it's going to get old, or you will get old. So either you will not be able to ride it, or that bike is not fit to ride. So like this, in every object that we acquire, every kind of joy that we acquire, relationships, objects. In spiritually speaking, they talk about lokas. You do a lot of rituals and a lot of tapasya and everything, and after death, you attain some heavenly dimensions, divine worlds, where your soul travels to the divine realm and gets lodged into one of the dimensions. There are so many lokas. The whole Veda, it talks about a lot of things. If you there are different levels of beings. You can look at the Anandavalli of Taittiriya Upanishads. You can Google that. So, when so there are different levels of attainments. And in spiritually, they say after death also, a normal person is talking about insurance. I'm taking care, making sure that in my old age, I will not struggle. I will have enough money. I will have enough to eat. I will have a comfortable housing. So that we have a retirement plan. So in ritualistic religion, there is post-death planning. So you do a lot of your karmas and everything. So the power of your austerity and tapasya and everything, that comes with you after death. The punya, the spiritual, you keep adding to your spiritual bank account. You do a lot of charities that goes into punya account. You do a lot of specific rituals that will gather a certain amount of grace, which will come, which will take care of your soul after you die. When your mind leaves, when your prana and mind leaves the body, there will be a support system waiting to take care of your mind, that unconscious state. It is something like this. So death is something like a sleep. So when we go to sleep, what we do, we just don't go and sleep anywhere and everywhere. You don't go to the middle of the highway and sleep. Even if you're traveling, you go into the side, find a nice corner near a tree, or find some lodge or a rest or a motel or something, and then you log in, and then you find a nice room, comfortable bed. If not bed, at least a mat on the ground, and then some kind of a roof above you to protect you from climate. Make sure there are not going to be, even if you're a caveman, you try to go inside the cave and close the door of the cave so that wild animals don't attack you, etc. In forest camps, they make a fire so that the wild animals won't come. So you take care of a lot of things that will protect you when you're sleeping. Because when you are sleeping, there is no control over the environment. There is no control over your response to the environment. You are in an extremely vulnerable state. You are unconscious. You don't know what is going on. And your body can be harmed. Your life can be in danger. So you will not become a victim to all the random forces that can come and to whom your body might be interesting. So, or some climatic conditions, there could be a rain, so that your sleep, if you have a roof, your sleep is not disturbed, you can sleep well. There is raining, but still you are comfortable in the room. Right? So you have all that. So we take care of all these arrangements, which will keep you protected, keep your body and your belongings protected, and sustain, allow you to sleep and relax into the sleep and surrender to the sleep. And when you wake up, you have all your things intact, right? So this is what we do before sleeping. We make sure that all these things, what I cannot take care. If suppose if some animal is coming towards me, if I am awake, I can run. But if I'm sleeping, I cannot. The animal can attack me. So I make sure that I am not accessible to the animal. I create a protection. So I create all the protection and comforts, and then I go into sleep. Correct? In the same way, when I am leaving the body, in most cases, unless I am a Siddha yogi, where I'm going through what is called Deva Yana, where with complete control of prana, I leave the body. This is one possibility for us. As a human being, we can take control of prana and leave the body with consciously, with control, with the prana control, right? So in that way, it is one pathway. So usually what happens is the prana takes over, like how in the dream, when you go into the dream, the natural tendencies of the mind take over. So you don't have control over, unless you are trained in lucid dreaming, you don't have control over what kind of thoughts come, what kind of images come, what kind of dream world is created. We don't have control over all that. So what happens? Just whatever is there in the mind, it just comes in the dream. So if you have spent a lot of time on some conversations about some topic or some TV serial or something, then you go to sleep, you are very disturbed, a lot of chaotic dreams. Suppose if you do a lot of sadhana and all that, then the dreams are in a different quality. Suppose if some churning has happened, some deep-seated memories or some unconscious things comes in the dream. The dreams are, so you don't have control over the dream. The dream, something, whatever is the residual tendency in the mind takes over the dream world, right? So that decides what kind of dream you have. But it is not a conscious process. Similarly, when we die, what happens? The mind along with the prana leaves the body. And it leaves the body in one of the, so if it is going in a downward unconscious way, it leaves through one of the 9 holes of the body, and the prana leaves the body. So based on the quality of the prana and the mind at the time of leaving the body, the afterlife is decided. The life after leaving the body, the life after death, the quality of life after death is decided by the quality of the nature of the mind and the prana at the time of leaving the body. So how you leave the body, that will take care of it. So that is the way in which we leave the body is ruled by a lot of unconscious forces, which are based on the different habit patterns that we have created throughout life. Whatever habit patterns we have created, the most intense and deep-seated tendencies, that all that will determine the quality of the soul while leaving the body, whichever is waiting for expression. Okay. So when we are leaving the body, so this usually takes care. So that is why in the religious life, for a person when he leaves the body, they say, the Upanishad, it says, may I remember all the good deeds I have done. May I remember all the yajnas I have done. May I remember all the dharmas I have done. So the person remembers all that and then leaves the body. So you are, you are creating the samskara. You are choosing with what state of mind you are going to leave the body. So what tendencies, what memories, what visions, and what feelings and vasanas, what are the forces, the unconscious forces that I awaken? What kind of forces awaken in my system? What kind of mood I create at the time of leaving the body? If a person goes through a very disciplined religious life, generally at the time of leaving the body, the religious samskara, the spiritual samskara takes over, and there are some special rituals they do regularly. So that creates a certain kind of adrishtam. Adrishtam means an unseen spiritual benefit. So when after the soul, which is basically I'm talking about the mind and prana along with the consciousness, when it leaves the body, the astral body leaves the physical body. This spiritual programming that I have done all my life, the adrishtam, the unseen spiritual merit that has been created through a lifelong religious, for a long life lived in according to the scriptures, with all the rituals and all the religious observances and everything. So the effect created by that adrishtam, the unseen spiritual benefit created by my religious life, that takes care of protecting your journey after you leave the body. Just like how the atmosphere I have created and takes care of my physical body when I go to sleep. Similarly, when I lose my consciousness, that is when it is like sleep, I lose my conscious control and will. It is not in my hand. When things go out of my control, and then at the time the thing leaves, whatever merit I have created, spiritual merit I have generated through a lifelong religious life, that merit, which is called as adrishtam or the unseen spiritual merit, that takes care of my journey after leaving the body. So based on the nature and the quality and the intensity of that merit and the nature of that merit, that adrishtam, whatever loka means whatever kind of dimension my soul will reach after leaving the body, it is guided towards the relevant at the dimension that matches the quality of my austerities. So whatever is the power I have created, that takes me to the right place. It's like if I have a very caring person in the house, I go to sleep without, I turn on the AC or whatever and I doze off to sleep and it's cold. So when the caring person in the family comes and sees me and it sees the room is cold, the person will cover you with a blanket. and then go, right? So this happens. So similarly, there are spiritual beings that will come and take care of the soul and make sure that it is taken to the right place. They say, when you die with the name of Lord Narayana, if you are a devotee of Vishnu, at the time of death, when the Yamadutas are coming, the agents of Narayana will come and then they will take you to Vaikuntha. This is one thing we hear in Puranas, right? It's a way of saying. So there are different ways of presenting it, but the logic is this. Just like how my body is taken care after I go to sleep, similarly, after I leave the body, as a soul, when I leave the body, the unseen spiritual merit generated by my rituals and all my prayers and everything, that takes care of protecting myself, my individuality, and making sure that I go into the right atmosphere where my astral life is taken care. That could be heaven, different levels of heaven, or if it is if I live in a very ascetic temperament, it could be some hell, different painful lokas, dimensions, or very pleasurable dimensions, very divine dimensions, or demonic dimensions. Depends. Okay. But after I go there, is it permanent? So let us say I do a lot of austerities and then I attain some nice spiritual, I get lodged in a nice spiritual loka where I get a special body. And because the body that is obtained as a result of my unseen spiritual merit, and I wake, like how I wake up in another, if I am reincarnating in another human body, I will wake up in the human body. Similarly, if I am lodged in, through this journey, I may not be aware, but once I go into another stable dimension, and when I get the right support system there, immediately my consciousness will wake up and I will realize myself in another dimension where I will be in what you call as a loka. Loka is it's a plane of living, plane of being. It is in a different vibratory state. It is you have this we say 14 lokas and all that. We have some theories. So similarly, there are stories in other traditions. So Vedic tradition, we say the 14 lokas. So this is the logic. So once you go there, you wake up into the dimension wherever you are. So let us say it is a very high level divine dimension, like some kind of a heaven. Now, the Shastra tells us that this is also temporary. It's not that, oh, I did a lot of prayers and rituals and now I am finally here. It is like a permanent retirement in paradise. No, there is nothing like it is a retirement. It's like a transition state. So as long as your punya or the adrishtam or the acquired merit is lasting, so you will be there like a prepaid card. Once your punya prepaid card is over, again, shine punya. Once your punya becomes less, once the prepaid card is exhausted, then your soul comes back to reincarnate. Generally, when you go into a divine dimension, the next reincarnation in the human body, probably, hopefully a human body, that also is not assured. So once this is exhausted, what kind of karmic packet gets activated from my causal body, that will decide what kind of reincarnation I will get. Reincarnated in human body, animal body, any body, we don't know. I could be a male, next life could be female, next life could be a Gandharva, or next life could be an animal, or next life could be a plant, or next life could be another male, So we don't know. So once that spiritual dimension, wherever I am living, enjoying the results of my spiritual merit, the religious merit, that is over, I will reincarnate. So even that is not permanent. Just like how material objects require struggle for acquiring, struggle for sustaining, and no matter how much I struggle, it will come to an end. Similarly, spiritual enjoyments also require a lot of tapasya, austerities in the beginning. Nobody likes to do all that. Everybody, if they are given an option to enjoy only the benefit without having to pay the price, everybody would like that. But unfortunately, it's not like that. So I have to go through a lot of struggle to maintain my discipline. And then I acquire the spiritual merit, which is going to, while I am enjoying, I don't need to do anything to sustain it because I'm only enjoying the benefit. So I enjoy the benefit. and it is invariably going to come to an end. Again, reincarnate, again acquire spiritual merit, again go to a better state. This goes on. Just like worldly enjoyments, there are also, just like worldly enjoyments are time bound, there are also spiritual enjoyments which are time bound. Now, these are stories, right? So, for as far as we are concerned, it is only story. So, you after death, what happens, we don't know. But what we can learn from this is the yogic experiences that we get, spiritual experiences. Now, this is the most important thing that we need to learn, because spiritual experiences is a big market. So anybody who comes to spirituality, yoga, kundalini, and whatnot, they are hunting altered states of consciousness. So now, when we are talking about spirituality, just like how in religion there is heaven tourism promotion, no matter which religion you go, there is always some kind of a heaven that the religion is trying to market. Similarly, you have in the terrestrial life, everyday life, here, when we are going through yoga and all that, there is this hunting of spiritual experiences where there is a constant effort to do some technique or use some herbs or something, and and do some different kinds of abnormal efforts to arrive at a certain high, that kind of a kick, a spiritual kick. So the lazy ones go for the drugs like LSD and all that. The lazy ones go for that. So the ones who are not lazy, they go into doing some extreme yoga. So there are people who do extreme hatha yoga, where you go to a certain point of intense, you generate that endorphins and all that, and then you feel good. So feel good hatha yoga. Similarly, feel good meditation. This is the healthy level. It's all right. It's all right to do something to feel good sometimes. But the unhealthy thing comes when I consider this feel good as the goal of yoga. As the goal of spirituality, I consider an altered state of consciousness where I experience see some lights, hear some sound, or I feel some ecstasy. I feel all this exhilaration in the body. All this can be done, with Kundalini and all that. It's a very simple thing, like you concentrate on the eyebrow center like this, and sustain a steady breathing, and slowly allow your background mind to converge behind your eyebrow center while you are sustaining this breathing, and you maintain this drishti. Now, in 10-15 minutes, if you do it correctly, if you have enough nadi shuddhi, in 2-3 minutes, you will get that ecstasy. So if you don't have much nadi shuddhi, in 15 minutes, you will get the ecstasy. And if your body is not pure, you will have some side effects, which can be corrected later. But this is one technique. Like this, there are 100 techniques. You have in Sufism, you see the dervish kind of monks, dervish Sufi practitioners. They keep whirling around. They turn and whirl around, and then they try to get some kind of an altered consciousness. So all these meditation practices are okay if I understand what role the altered state of consciousness that I experience, what role does it play in my spiritual journey? What is the actual sustained long-term benefit that I get from it? Because just like how I obtain this, the Shastra talks about the spiritual worlds that are gained, the Shastra also tells you that you're going, prepaid card will get exhausted and you'll have to reincarnate and start from square one. In the same way, the spiritual experiences that we get, which we cannot relate stories, because you can try the technique and experience it. So all these yoga experiences, the yogic experiences, and altered state of consciousness are accessible for everybody while we are alive. All you need is to go through the discipline, and then you will get that. Right? They are as experiences. The value of these experiences is nothing more than getting similar altered state of experiences with drugs. It's the same thing. But the only thing is here, the body and the mind and the prana, we have that experience in yoga. So this discipline that I subject myself to, that gives a certain superior level of the way of being after I come out of experience. So even that experience is like an icing on the cake. So that is not the thing. It's just a value addition. It's nice. The experience tells you that I have been on the right path. That is all true. And that experience cannot be sustained. So no matter how elevating spiritual experience that I get after my meditation, pranayama, or extreme hatha yoga, whatever I do, that experience will last for some time. It's a nice experience, nevertheless. I'm not dismissing that, but it is very important to know that this experience is temporary, and this experience is not spiritual freedom. This experience is not the goal of spirituality. So absence of bondage. So when I talk about absence of experiencing bondage, absence of experiencing struggle, means there is no more striving for something in time. I do something, then I get something. So whatever I do and get after a certain amount of effort, after a certain amount of time, is going to be lost in time. No matter how much I struggle, what I obtain in time cannot be sustained forever. Only what already exists eternally does not require sustaining. Hence, it is free from struggle. Luckily, it happens to be my own true nature. Me, in my true nature, I am already infinite. I am the goal of all that I seek. This is an understanding. So I, in my true nature, I am what I seek in everything that I seek. So this is a certain understanding that we need to arrive at through dialogue and with Shraddha and with discussions and logic and everything. Once we arrive at this understanding, we will be absolutely not interested in any time-bound attainment. So when we are going through our spiritual journey and when we're doing our study, our practices, the different levels of yoga that we may practice, all that when we do, it is important to understand no experience that I arrive at as a result of manipulating my body, manipulating my energies, manipulating the chakras, all that is energy, manipulating the movements of my mind, manipulating my attitude. No matter what effort I do to manipulate which level of functioning in my system, the result obtained is not the goal of spirituality. So any manipulation that I do is only to gain a little more of control over my faculties, a little more of choice that I can exercise when I choose, the little more choice in my ability to choose what is right in a given moment. So a little more of control over me, not over the forces of my unconscious mind. The level of assertion, how much my desires, my habit patterns, how much say or control they have over my thinking, over my ability to act or not act, to choose. I feel like doing something. There is a feeling like doing something. Now I can feel it like a mild suggestion, or I can feel it like an overwhelming compulsion. So when it is an overwhelming compulsion, I should know how to handle myself. That requires control over prana and indriyas. Now, and after that, I must be able to access the switches that can turn off that compulsion inside. If that compulsion is not in place according to what I understand as the best of ethics that I am supposed to follow, I must be able to turn off that compulsion. And that compulsion won't be compulsion anymore. And then probably I must be able to turn around the thought pattern so that naturally I am able to think what is right. I am thinking what is not right, but I am able to do what is right and able to restrain myself from not doing what is not correct. That is one level. That is called damyata, control at the level of action. Then there is shama, where I am able to process that background restlessness. I am able to control myself, but still I am restless. So I am able to process that background restlessness and hopefully turn it around and turn the quality of my thinking itself around through vichara, through pratipaksha bhavana, through all those different techniques that we have, approaches that we have. We can look at all of them while we go through. So to developing that muscle of self-control, the self-control muscle, and the developing the ability to handle the different movements of myself, my individuality, the different ways in which my individuality asserts in different situations, to develop choice over that. That is the goal we are going towards. So all different experiences we might get on the way, please enjoy them. There's nothing wrong with them. But all the spiritual experiences that we enjoy are to be enjoyed responsibly with a very clear understanding. No matter how sublime the experience that comes, that experience is not the goal. Because no experience is absolute. Because every experience requires an experiencer. The experiencer is the result of my individuality, which is sustained by ignorance. So no matter what is the experience, you seeing yourself as the experiencer is basically like a dream. It is based on avidya or ignorance. So me seeing myself as the experiencer in a given experience tells that I am already operating within ignorance. So that is not the goal of, that is not freedom, because the experience is going to come to an end and I may be hankering back to get the same experience, which means struggle. Then I am stuck with the loop, which means bondage, right? So with this clear understanding, our approach to spirituality has to be uncompromising commitment to arrive at the level of understanding and freedom where there is not going to be experience of bondage ever. There is not going to be struggle ever. No more struggle, no more bondage, and no more misery or no more sorrow. Completely crossing over this ocean of becoming, ocean of sorrow, this ocean of struggle and ocean of bondage, completely crossing over that is a way of saying crossing over, in the sense becoming completely free of that. So that is a goal worth pursuing, because once it's not an attainment, but once having arrived at that freedom, it's irreversible and it's permanent. Because that freedom is not something that I attain, but that is something that I realize as my own nature after I free myself from all the patterns of individuality, all the patterns in which I am stuck in all the patterns in which I am stuck as an individual. At the root of all these patterns is my individuality. And at the root of individuality is ignorance. So I'm slowly gathering myself. I'm gathering myself from all my tension, all the movements of my individual self, and slowly gathering myself at my core and becoming completely available to investigate this and to pierce through this ignorance with the power of knowledge, which is called Viveka, and, and through the power of Upadesha and Ishvara's grace, Guru's grace. So with all that, to be completely available to dismantle this individuality that is constructed around ignorance, the power of ignorance, right? So that is the goal of the entire spiritual journey. And for that, Yama and Niyama, when the Yoga Shastra talks about, it attacks at the very core, where I give more importance to my individuality than dharma, more importance to my individuality than the reality of a situation. For example, we see a very simple thing. We see a very common tendency we see in world is, don't, even if it is true, don't tell me. I don't want to hear it. I would like to hear what is pleasant. I would like to hear, even though it is not true, I would like to hear what I want to have, what I want to realize, what I want to experience. Only that I want to hear. I don't want to hear what I cannot handle. So don't tell me. So why did you tell me that I cannot handle it? Please don't tell me these things. Even if you know, please keep it to yourself. So I have seen people like that. So they have a problem. Then when you tell them the root of the problem, they tell you, please don't tell me all that. I can't handle the truth. There are people who can't handle the truth. So why they cannot handle the truth? Is because my likes and dislikes are more important than the truth. So the force of my attachment, or how much I am stuck up in my own imaginary world, that is so strong that I cannot handle something that challenges it. So if the reality is challenging my dream world, I will have to wake up to the reality. I cannot shut down the reality and go back to the dream world. Then what happens? A dream that is not in line with reality becomes very difficult to sustain. I cannot sustain the dream. So if I am stuck in my dream that is not in line with reality, that is not supported by reality, then the dream becomes more difficult to sustain. Right? So reality, in the long run, love of reality always works better than comfort of remaining in my own personal dream. So when I arrive at this understanding, I learn to give more importance to the reality. So Yama, not harming, not speaking lies, Satya, and not succumbing to the dictates of pleasure, brahmacharya, not desiring what belongs to others, asteya, aparigraha, not cultivating dependency on others, not cultivating a psychological dependency on others and the benefit received from others. And in others, giving us things and taking care of us and giving gifts and all that. Not in sannyasa, they say janakripa. Janakripa means do not be psychologically dependent on others being nice to you. So aparigraha has something like, I don't receive gifts from others, basically. They say non-possessiveness. It's not about non-possessiveness. It is about parigraha means taking things from others. When I don't take things from others, I don't feel indebted to them, basically. And also, I am not creating what is called runam. And it keeps me stuck in relationships. It keeps me more and more in this, in this cycle of social give and take. And it has its own circle of, it has its own power of keeping me in samsara. So that is one of the things that comes in interaction with others. So not receiving gifts and free things from others is aparigraha. So when a yogi is committed to yama, this, so here they identified these 5 things: not speaking lies, not harming others. Because when I am going for violence, when I'm choosing violence, I am not available to give space. I am asserting myself over the space needed for another person. So I am asserting myself more than what I am allotted by reality. So there is no surrender. When I am not surrender, what happens in violence? I am my individuality. I am asserting my individuality in a very, very strong in a way, in a very vital way, in a very no the connection between my prana and my individuality becomes very strongly reinforced, and that increases what is called abhinivesha, the craving for life. If you see a lot of violent people, they are very scared of death. So if you take the biggest rowdy in a town, so that guy is one of the most scared guys. So the fearlessness will not come. A non-violent person, on the other hand, is more fearless than a very violent person. So violence, what happens is it increases abhinivesha. So because of that, non-violence becomes very important as a gateway for live and let live. And it creates a certain kind of adrishta. Like I said, no, the unseen spiritual merit. A person who is established in non-violence in thought, word, and action. The Shastra says hostilities cease in that person's surroundings. So when a very, very non-violent person goes into a zone, a few people who are committed to non-violence, if they enter a town, let us say a town which is known for a lot of violence and arson and everything, when they go into that place, suddenly people will feel like not being violent. They will let go. Even the Shastra, the commentaries in the Yoga Shastra, they say that even a tiger or, naturally violent beings like a tiger and a deer which is scared of the tiger, they will not be afraid of the tiger will not want to attack. The tiger will not attack the deer, and the deer will not feel afraid of the tiger. So there will be a certain kind of peace and mutual, the peaceful coexistence and non-violence that will spread around in the area where this yogi is. And even naturally, against species like a lion or a tiger and a deer, they will be friendly towards each other. And the violence between them will cease in the vicinity of this yogi. That's what the commentaries to the Yoga Shastra says. So it creates a certain kind of protection. People will not feel like attacking. So non-violence is basically like an armor. Right? So and also it frees me from the need to assert myself. Like that, we can go and examine each yama. So the whole goal of that, why that's why he says, these yama niyamas should be practiced at all times, at all places, without exception. Because it is not about my relationship with the world, it is more about my relationship with myself. Why I have to practice at all places, at all times, at all conditions without exception? Because I'm working with gathering myself at core. So when I understand the purpose of spiritual freedom, for which the absolute freedom and from bondage and struggle and sorrow towards which I am working, and I understand the importance of gathering myself at my core to examine the ignorance, when I understand the purpose, it's not about whether people respect me or whether things get done. I am the violent person is always making people do what he wants. I am so non-violent, but people don't respect my needs. You may say the person who is lying is all the time getting his things done, very successful. You see a lot of rich politicians and people who lie, they're very successful. A very truthful person, you hear the story of Harishchandra. The guy suffered all his life because of speaking the truth. It's not very motivating. So the point is not getting things done. So a person who is following ahimsa and satya need not have a better life externally when compared to a person who is lying and violent and who is stealing and who is always getting the way. They may get their way, but they are losing the soul, and they are losing themselves into more bondage and struggle. They are losing themselves into the patterns of struggle. While when I am committed to non-violence and truth and all the other values that are recommended in the yamas and niyamas, I am becoming more and more free because I understand the game plan and I understand the nature of the goal. And because of that understanding, I am committed to this. So this Vitarka Bhavane, Pratipaksha Bhavanam, which we discussed in the last class, when contrary thoughts that encourage the distraction, that encourage the contrary, that encourage the habit patterns, when those thoughts are asserting themselves, practice the opposite. Means I understand, I learn, I recollect in my mind again and again the true purpose for which I am committed to the spiritual process, the true goal that I am trying to achieve here. And I also cultivate detachment towards the goals that were very meaningful and very, very alluring for me as a normal, ignorant person who is dependent on external things. In those days, in my worldly life, all those things that are very alluring, I see their limitations. I may cheat now and get some things done, but what is the impression that experience leaves in my unconscious mind? So that impression is going to make me more and more stuck into the pattern of struggle, pattern of defining my happiness based on getting that thing done. Right? So that is the pattern. So once I define my happiness based on getting something done in time, I'm stuck. So that is opposite to the spiritual goal of freedom. The freedom that exists in timelessness, the freedom that is the absence of struggle and bondage, the freedom that comes when I am able to pierce through the ignorance that sustains my individuality, for which I have to gather myself, take all my compulsions, all my switches and all my triggers. I will have to switch off one by one, and become more and more and more available for my true self, for investigating the source of this individuality at the core of the avidya, where I'm able to pierce that and realize my true self, which is beyond avidya. Tamasah parastar, it says, Adityavaranam tamasah parastar. It is of the nature of the unlit, self-effulgent light, like the sun, beyond darkness. Vedahanetam Purusha Mahantam. I realize that Supreme Purusha, who is bright like the sun, self-effulgent like the sun, beyond darkness or beyond ignorance. Other than this, there is no other way for absolute freedom. Tamevam Vidwan Amrita Iha Bhavati Nanyah Pantha Vidvite Ayanaya, says in Vedanta. So, with that, on that note, I will complete today's lecture. Any questions? 5 minutes we have.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Vanakkam. The question is
there something on chat that I missed?
I don't know. Nothing in it.
Nothing. Okay. Yes, tell me.
How to, as you were saying about manipulation in many things, the mind, and what is love? Love. In what I
In
mean.
what sense?
Yeah. What I mean is, I'm coming to the point. So, like in family, parents, when we say here,
If you want to map it, my internet connection is unstable. So if I want to map it to the Yoga Shastra, the terms that we use in yoga,
yes,
it will come under raga.
All right. So here, practically, like in daily life, when we connect with family, whatever they do, we try to forgive, or we try to, be nice.
Right.
But then outside the family, when they do, we cannot take it. The same thing, what we forgive inside the family, sometimes we cannot forgive outside. Which is, they say love is
So that is because I don't have a value for forgiveness. I have a value for the person.
Yes, yes. So when we say love is unconditional, and then we connect only whatever
And
it
there
is.
is no unconditional love. That is complete nonsense. Unconditional love is possible only for a jnani. Except a Jivan Mukta, nobody has unconditional love.
So how to understand love in terms of like a day-to-day daily life
The
understanding?
love as an emotion we consider, which is basically what we call as it's a form of attachment based on likes and dislikes, where two people are very compatible with each other. So it is possible that you are in a family and you don't love your own brother. Your brother could hate each other. It's possible. Similarly, the mother and I have seen families where the mother is not okay with the first daughter, but she's very nice with the second daughter. There is always some jealousy between goes on. Then they tell her, "Oh, it's my child, I love her," and all that. Then there is this son and father jealousy kind of relationship. Now, all that I have seen, it happens in me. So when I am having a relationship from my individuality, that is, it is based on how that other person is gratifying for me. There is a beautiful dialogue. You can look it up on the internet also. Dialogue between Yajnavalkya and Maitri in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. It's a very famous dialogue. It's called Atmanastu Kamaya Sarvam Priyam Bhavati. It is for the sake of the self that everything is dear. It says husband is not dear for the sake of husband, but for the sake of one's own self. The child is not loved for the sake of its own sake, but for the sake of one's own sake. Anything that is loved is for the sake of one's own sake, not for its own sake. It's a dialogue comes in. Where the dialogue gradually leads the student, the Maitreyi, to the point where he says, self is the source of all the ananda, all the happiness. That is why the self is the most loved. Anything that is a source of ananda is loved. Of happiness is love. Anything that is a source of happiness, what you map, you consider something as a source of happiness, you love it. So when everything is loved only for the sake of the self must be the source of all the infinite happiness. Like that, it develops the logic to bring the mind back to the self. So basically from that we can understand, and also from our honest investigation of our experience, everyday experience. You understand, it is only because that person is, in some way contributing to your emotional, physical, intellectual, or artistic, or any kind of gratification, aesthetic sense. Somewhere the person appeals to that sense, and you are deriving a kind of a experiential satisfaction in the relationship. And that is why you love the person. Oh, I love my mom. Why? Because it's nothing like my mom. Why? Nothing like my mom? Because my mom is taking care of me in this way, that way. So when I am a child, the mom takes care of all my needs, and there is a very strong hard wiring of the mother associated with taking care of my needs. So that is why when a child grows up in some other house, meets some other person like your mother, all the love goes there. So the person may meet the biological mother, because of the social conditioning that the biological mother is important, this person, and it also connects to one's own identity, this person may feel interest in the biological. But if that woman turns out to be horrible, then the person will not love. The person will love the foster mother more than the biological. So we can see all that in the world.
So
same applies to man-woman relationship and all the other romantic relationships. Yes.
Sorry about this. One more continuation on that one. There's another Lavani, but then I have just a continuation of that question. So if that is there's no real love, then how
I will not say that there is no real love. There is no unconditional love.
There's no unconditional love. Sorry about it. Then how to understand as a
The
practitioner?
love is as real as it gets. That's about it. How to understand?
How to understand? For some, love and lust is like confused, or how it is lust. How to say
lust is more. Lust is the same love expressed through the body, and whatever they call as love versus lust, the love is more expressed through the emotion. Just investigate it. Just investigate it.
Thank you. Lavani has a question.
So if the two people's body chemistry is reciprocal, so you are able to relate through the bodies, you are able to relate to the, that liking, the gratification. So the sense of self, I am, is mapped to the body. So you are interacting with each other through the sense of self mapped to the body. Dehatma buddhi, we say in Yoga Shastra. So your Dehatma buddhi and the other person's Dehatma buddhi is some kind of, they are able to be compatible in a certain way. So it leads to lust. Nothing wrong in lust. Lust is as much ignorance as love, and love is as much ignorant as lust. Love is more emotional. Being more emotional, it's more subtle. It tends to have a higher grading among, higher kind of value in our judgment. But it's all the same thing. It's all coming from individuality. Individuality in the body or individuality from the mind.
All right. Thank you.
Because it is subtle, it enjoys more sattva. Because it's connected to the Sukshma Sarira, to the mind, it has more sattva component. So it is more long lasting and it is finer, and you are able to appreciate it in a much subtler and a finer level. So it feels like as though it is superior to the physical, because physical is more tamasic. Physical love is more tamasic, while emotional and aesthetic and other kinds of love, they are more sattvic, more rajasic, sattvic. So in that spectrum, so anything that is sattvic is more sustainable in the long run. So that way you can say love is better than lust, because it is more sustainable, because it has more sattva component than lust. While lust is more tamasic, there is more struggle involved. So that's how I understand.
Yeah, thank you.
You can give up your comments if anybody has.
Lavani has a question on the chat.
Oh yeah, okay. Why I'm not able to see the chat, man? This technology kills me. I'll never be good in this thing. Yeah, I got it. Namaste ji. Do planetary positions play a role in our actions towards spiritual growth? To a great extent, yes, but that is not to be considered used for giving an alibi. Oh, I've seen astrologers. One guy, he went and spoke some nonsense to some higher authorities and lost his job. So I knew that my Rahu was in my Vaksthana, something. I knew that something, that is why I told it what I'm not supposed to say, and that's why I lost the job. I said, you're astrologer, you know that Rahu is in the wrong place. I mean, in your Vaksthana, that is your house that governs speech, there was Rahu. So what you should do, you should practice Maunam. So when I know that I have Rahu, if I speak, I might tend to speak the wrong things. Then you should put some artificial controls in place, and I put some discipline or tapasya in place. So that, during this period where there is an unconscious tendency to speak the wrong words, you don't end up in arguments and discussions with people. So I had one uncle in my family. So there is something called Chandrashtamam. So in Chandrashtamam, generally people have bad mood, they say. He says, hey, once he comes to the hello, everything, and he say, hey, today Chandrashtamam for me. So don't talk unnecessary stuff with me. He will say while entering the house. So we will all be nice to him, and it will be smooth. So planetary positions do affect. It's not planetary position. It is the correlation. There is an equivalent devata or a aspect of functional intelligence that is associated with the planet, that is mapped to the planet, that is understood in terms of the planet. For example, we say, ability to analyze, analytical thinking is connected to Buddha, right? So when Buddha or Mercury is very strong, your analytical thinking will be very strong. So the force that controls the analytical thinking is mapped to the planet Mercury. So it is not the planet which is affecting me. So based on my planetary positions, there is a correlation of the internal forces that control my unconscious. So that's how it is understood. So this different unconscious forces, the way they are operating in my system, of course, they do have an influence towards the spiritual growth. That's why when you give mantra diksha and all that, we look at the horoscope sometimes. A proper, this mantra shastra person, we usually see which devata is good for the person. If the person is, they will also rely on intuition, but they will also check the horoscope. Where is the Atma Karaka? What is this? What is that? And then they will see. There's a whole astrology that goes into deciding what could be the best upasana for a person, etc. So I have heard that from the experts. So it's definitely it has a role, but it has to be taken as your capital and see what you can do with it. Not in the sense of using the planetary position to give excuses for all my habitual indulgences. So that's how we should approach it. Use that astrological knowledge for the purpose of purushartha, not for the purpose of blaming my karma. So with that, I will conclude. I think it's time. We will meet next week. I'll finish with my Shanti mantra. Om Purnamada Purnamitam Purnam Purnamudachyate Purnatsa Purnamadaya Purnamevavadishyate Om Shanti 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 Om Tatsat. Thank you.
Nandri.